Hi, friends. Welcome to the Mobile Bev Pros podcast, a podcast dedicated to providing mobile bar and event professionals with the information they need to succeed. I'm your host, business coach, and founder of the Mobile Bar Academy, Sarah Murphy. In each episode, the Mobile Bev Pros team will bring you industry experts, information, anecdotes, and opinions with the goal of assisting you in building a profitable, sustainable, and successful business that supports you in creating wealth. I'm excited to share with you today's episode, so let's get started. Today on the podcast, we have a returning guest, one of our favorites, Bobby Greenawalt with Greenawalt Hospitality. Bobby has been a contributor to the podcast in the past, but also an instructor at our in-person event in 2022. He is so generous with his time and a super busy man. So we're going to get straight to it today. Bobby's going to talk to us today about his newest venture, which is actually a nonprofit foundation called the Greenawalt Family Foundation.
That's correct. Yes.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to hear more about this. When I saw you share it on Facebook, it was in short succession after you had launched two other companies. So clearly you don't sleep a whole lot. I'm really excited to hear what the Family Foundation is, what its mission is, and who can support you in the work that you're doing.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here and discuss it with you today. So thank you for having me.
So where did the Family Foundation come from? Why start a nonprofit?
Well, I've always been passionate about helping people. It started in 2011. There was a big set of tornadoes that came through Alabama, and over in Tuscaloosa, they got hit really hard. And so I was maybe a year and a half, 2 years into my company. And so we went to Sam's Club, bought a bunch of water, took it over there, dropped it off, didn't know who I was dropping it off to, just drove around and trying to help whoever we could. Actually had to rent a box truck for it because I didn't own one then, and we tried to help them with that. And from there, as business grew, we had several nonprofits say, hey, we're a nonprofit. We can't afford this. We can't afford that. And I got a really great message in 2016 from none other than Tito Beveridge. I don't know if you know his last name is Beveridge or not, but his last name is Beveridge. But he was doing an interview with his team, and they did this whole video, and it's accessible on our website. But every big liquor company has a nonprofit or a foundation that they work with and contribute to, whether it's the American Red Cross or whoever else it may be. So they said, Tito, we need you to pick one. A couple weeks go by, Tito, we need you to pick one. And they kept offering all these suggestions, and he couldn't come to a determination. And in the video, he kind of got like a little choked up a little bit. And he said, I can't choose one. I'm going to help them all. And so from there on, he made it a priority that he was going to create his own foundations with Tito's Love and then the Box for Dog People, but also that any foundation or nonprofit that came to him asking for either donation or product in order for them to raise funds, they would never turn one down as long as they were a certified 501c3 nonprofit. So from there, I was like, well, how do we help people? So we have a lot of nonprofits come to us and ask us for things, and we can't give the company away, fortunately, but we do offer discounts, and we have 3 different ways that they can help themselves by us offering them certain ways of benefiting themselves for their upcoming events. So from there, I said, all right, well, how do we help this even further? Well, as we all know, 2020 came along, made it much more difficult for us to do business. But what was the biggest problem when business came back? Staffing, right? People just were not there. We could not get a single person to work. I said, how do we fix this? How do we shape the future of hospitality? How do we get people excited about it? How do we make this for, it's not just a $2.13 an hour thing that you do until you get done with high school or college or whatever it may be? Or how do you make this career? How do you make somebody who wants to be in this industry successful? And that's where the idea for the foundation came from, and that's what we're about.
That's amazing. As someone who worked my way through all the schooling in the hospitality industry, my first job, a bus girl for a small Italian restaurant. And then I did housekeeping at a dude ranch. I was a bus girl in another restaurant until I learned how to say Pinot Noir correctly. And then I was able to be a server, then a bartender, then a manager, and then obviously on through the corporate level. And went to a hospitality specific school that had all the training and all of the, business side, but also the service side. And I think that having and being surrounded by people who are truly in the hospitality industry for more than just the tips makes a huge difference. What specifically is the Family Foundation going to offer the benefactors of the nonprofit?
Yeah. So obviously we have a fundraising side of things that we need to collect funds from in order to fund our efforts. But our goal is like a lot of nonprofits you donate to them and a lot of it goes towards salaries. Well, we have an executive director. He is a friend and a retired employee of a local university and, isn't asking for a lot of money. He's passionate about what we're doing as well. So very little of what we collect is going to go towards him, but the rest of it we're wanting to push out into our program. We have several programs. Our biggest program is a scholarship program and this is national. This isn't hyper local or anything. This is a national brand we're going to be pushing out. And with the partnerships we've already received from some of the people that I know nationally, it's going to make it a lot easier for us to, again, push this national. But our scholarship program, we want to make sure that we have a path for people who want to go to culinary school or somebody who wants to get their serve safe manager course. Well, it's $180, sometimes $200 or more. That's expensive, Or let's say that there is somebody who really needs to work a shift, but they can't afford childcare. How do we assist them there? It's like you have to work, but in order to work, you have to leave your family. If you can't afford to leave your family, how do you work to make money? It's this tragic cycle of hospitality. So with the scholarship program, we will put several different scholarships out there, national scholarships, and you can apply. It's not going to be one big scholarship. It's going to be several smaller ones. When I say smaller, it could range anywhere from 500 to 5,000, something longer ones, but depending upon what's needed. And then as there's special use cases that come along or somebody just really struggling and they have a really compelling story, then yes, we will absolutely come in to help. But this isn't intended for the best student. This isn't like straight A student, you get your scholarship. This is for people that are struggling, the people that need it, people that can't make their own way. And so if you can't make your own way, I'm going to help you way. As long as you're dedicated and you want to do this, then our foundation is to help. And that's with the scholarship program. Next is our mentorship program. I've been very fortunate to work hard and get to meet a lot of really cool people, yourself being included. And I know you offered to be a mentor. I'm excited about that. But even people like with the National Restaurant Association or with specific brands in the alcohol community or food community, or even somebody like Gordon Ramsay. I don't know him, but one day I will, and see if we can make that work. But just having the mentorship program and selecting one person to meet with those people and learn their expertise. And I wish I had a mentor. Just recently I've tried to seek a mentor, but our industry is so small. And so still in its infant stages, you have your veterans out there, but your veterans are a completely different age of what the community is now. So I really think that mentorship, not only in beverage alcohol, but in hospitality as a whole, is important. And some of our board members are from the hotel side of things, which hotel is a major aspect of hospitality. Really big Ritz-Carlton ties there, really big, nice boutique hotel side things. And then some other programs we have, like we want to do some workshops on helping people learn how to do certain specific sides of hospitality. And then if somebody wants to run their own business, somebody wants to branch off, well, we all have to have it. That's not an easy task to do. And, I've mentioned it to you before in some of the other meetings we've done. I wish somebody was there to teach me how to pay taxes, what taxes I'm supposed to pay. This is a liquor license and this is what you need it for. This is a health permit and this is what you have to do or not do. There's a lot of good things there. And we've partnered actually this weekend flying out to Chicago to the National Restaurant Association's annual meeting. And I've known a few of those people for a long time. Michelle Korsmo is their current CEO. She was the previous CEO of the Wine and Spirits Wholesalers of America. So I got to know her very well with my national ties as being president of the American Beverage Licensees. So by just general network of things, the National Restaurant Association owns ServSafe. They want to help us and contribute to the foundation by offering some free ServSafe classes. And then they have this newer program that they're launching that they want to be able to gift us 100 scholarships towards it. So it's people that want to learn certain aspects of hospitality, certain aspects of food safety, alcohol safety, so on and so forth, and just really working really hard to make sure that the hospitality community and the future of it is in a solid place.
This all sounds really exciting. It also sounds like this might be a long-term strategic plan. You have a lot of different arms that maybe will roll out over time. You're starting
Right.
with the scholarship portion of that.
That's correct. Yeah. Well, the scholarships and this partnership with the National Restaurant Association should happen relatively quick too.
Awesome. And so it sounds like your target market for this are the people who are seeking either work or careers within the hospitality industry, but there's roadblocks or barriers in some way, shape, or form that you hope to either eliminate or reduce in order to get them closer to their goals. And if I'm a business owner, how can I engage with the Family Foundation? Can I come to you and say, I have an open position? Do you have someone that's gone through your programming? Obviously, I could give money. I could potentially help host a workshop if I was a restaurant or hotel and I had meeting space. How do you envision people serving and supporting the Family Foundation to utilize the product of what you're producing?
Yeah, I mean, nothing's off limits. Every single thing you mentioned there is up for grabs. I learned a long time ago, you don't get a single meeting that you don't take. So if you take a meeting and somebody has an idea, listen to it, see what's possible. What are they interested in? How can they contribute? If they need help themselves, there's been several people just from the last podcast I did with you that reached out to me and asked me several questions on, and we did that one on large events on, hey, I've got this large event opportunity. How do I do this? How do I do that? And, quite frankly, I'm very upfront with them. And a lot of times you need that, but there's certain aspect of, hey, we should go get this law changed. Or, okay, yeah, I want to get all the laws changed, but it's a very difficult process to do that. And it's very unlikely to happen. But yes, to answer your question, yes, all of the above. Obviously, we have to raise funds in order to give money out and to operate. We have to have people that are willing to be a part of that mentorship program. We have to have people that, if they have job placement opportunities for people that need help placement in jobs and very qualified people, we need that as well. So, I mean, everything across the board. We're even looking at talking to a few different shoe manufacturers. One of them, we've talked to several people in the community. What's the hardest aspect of you with this job? A lot of times, believe it or not, it's the non-flip shoes. They're so expensive. And so we're talking to some shoe manufacturers on if they do want to donate, 1,000 pairs a year or something like that we can help give out to their hospitality community and stuff. So lots of different things. We're open to ideas, but there's not many nonprofits or foundations out there that are there to help people in the hospitality community. There's a lot of people that are there to help with just financial incentives on certain things, but nobody to actually help build careers and to build the community itself.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. And I've lived in DC for a really long time, and the National Restaurant Association is huge there in a way that
Mhm.
I don't know that it is as influential in a lot of other cities as it is in the DC area. And they did have training programs for hospitality. They had Serve Safe and that sort of thing. And they also had other kind of like little training things for managers that wanted to like move up in the ranks, also like servers, that sort of thing. But by and large, there isn't a whole lot that focuses on the hospitality industry. And I don't think I've ever really noticed that. Why do you think that is?
I honestly have no idea. I was kind of blown away. There are some. It's not like we're the first to do this, but I was very surprised that there's not many out there. Maybe it's because, to my very point earlier, that a lot of people use hospitality as a segue to post collegiate or post high school type careers. And maybe if you are going into hospitality, then you are obtaining a scholarship to go to a culinary school or to go to a hospitality program at a college and moving your way up there. Or you got people that just start from the ground up, and have that sweat equity into an organization. I'm very surprised though that hospitality as a whole doesn't really have a lot of help and resources.
Not only does it not have a whole lot of help and resources, but it's considered a vital part. If you think
Right.
about, when COVID happened and it shut the world down, restaurants maintained service. They had to still go to work. We still had to feed people. We still had to house people in hotels. That part of the world did not shut down. And it is by and large an industry that is supported by low wage workers that may not have opportunities elsewhere. And
Mm.
one thing that's really always annoyed me when people talk about the hospitality industry, there's somewhat of like people look down on them a little bit. And as someone who owned my own bar company and was the bartender a vast majority of the times, despite the fact that I was a business owner, I'd still oftentimes get referred to as like, oh, you're the bartender. And like, you're the event planner. Like, why is there a power dynamic here? But I guess what I think I'm trying to get at here is that there's so much stigma associated with the industry that people who are in the industry almost don't take themselves seriously either.
Mhm.
And, you had made a comment earlier about how after COVID, it was really hard to find and maintain staff, which I also experienced. And there was this thing that started going around where everyone's like, nobody wants to work anymore. At the core of my being, disagree with this. I think people want to do valuable work. I think people want to feel valued and they want to feel like they're contributing in a meaningful way when they go and contribute hours at a time to doing a thing. And as a society, I think we just have stigmatized hospitality work so much that even the people in the hospitality industry have lost the ability to value that work. And I think what I'm hearing you say, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the Family Foundation is aiming to add back that dignity and that respect by giving resources that enable people to feel supported and to maybe even reframe the importance of the work that hospitality workers do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it back to bringing the pride and hospitality back. I mean, P.T. Barnum said the noblest of all art is to make people happy, and that is what hospitality is at its core. And you are there to serve others, to make them happy, to make their day better. And how do we make people excited about that again? The days of $2.13 an hour, I think, should be gone. That's my personal opinion. I pay my guys anywhere from $12 to $20 an hour, plus gratuity, plus tips. And that's just in the beverage world. But other aspects, the people that are maintaining good workforces are the ones that are actually paying them properly. And that was a big complaint after COVID. Like, well, if you want me to come back to work and pay me what I'm worth, there was a little bit of inflation there on people saying what they think they deserve versus what they probably really do deserve and qualifications and so on and so forth. But you have to start somewhere. And I think $2.13 an hour is not really the way to go with that. So we pay our people a very nice salary and hourly wage, and they are happy to work with us. We were paying 10 an hour, then bumped up to 12 after COVID, and then management makes more, so on and so forth. But there's ways to treat people, and you have to treat them the right way. And that culture has been negatively impacted for many years. And I think COVID may have been the breaking point of that. Hopefully, with what we're doing here, is we can bring back that portion of let's make people happy. How do we make people happy? How do we love what we do? Because if you're making people happy, then you're happy, and so on and so forth. But you can't do that without resources. You can't just come straight off the street and do it. You have to have training. You have to know what you're doing. You have to be nice. You have to have a great attitude. You have to show up to work. All those things, hopefully we can help assist people with that. And we were talking about the economics of how vital hospitality is. And hospitality is extremely vital. The economics show that. But a lot of times the socioeconomic backgrounds of the people working are never really considered. And so you have to take that into consideration. And while we're promoting diversity and promoting inclusion and into everything, I think that anybody who works in the back of house has the opportunity to work in the front. I don't think it should be bound by race or sex or color or whatever it may be. I think it should be that everybody has equal opportunity to be successful in this industry, regardless of what people may think. You mentioned on bartenders, that always drives me crazy how, oh, you're just the help type thing. I've always hated that connotation. And we even changed the name of our company at one point for that very reason. We started off with bartending being in our name, and we since removed that, but we're still called the bartending company half the time. And it's like, well, that's very small in what we do. But sure, whatever you want to call us, man. So overall, just bringing happiness and the culture back to hospitality and make it a place for people to succeed.
Yeah. And I think it's a real privilege to be able to work for $2.13 an hour and not know that you're going to be taking away a living wage, because in many cases, maybe you have a babysitter at home that you're also paying, to your point, or many times I had to buy my own uniform and I may not have had enough money at that time. And so there was always a conversation of, well, can I take a lien or a loan against my first paycheck to pay for this uniform that you require me to have? And I think you're right. I think there's a shifting sense in the hospitality industry. When I first got into the hospitality industry, it was the Anthony Bourdain days, right? And sometimes you still see this, but it was like 50, 60-hour weeks. There was no support in the way of an abusive chef or whatever, but also of the guests, right? The guests they're always right. And we were being severely underpaid, severely overworked. And it just was a very toxic place to be in general. I feel like that's changing. I think, to your point, rates for payment. I saw at one point dishwashers were getting like $35 an hour. And like, heck yes, if you can get it, you know what I mean? I think that, to your point, that's come down a little bit since COVID as well. But I think that pay is going better. I think quality of life is going better. I think scheduling now, whether it's because laws have been enacted, minimum wage requirements, whatever that looks like. Health insurance is oftentimes offered, which it never was. Even
Mhm.
as a manager, I was very rarely ever offered health insurance as a full-time employee of a restaurant. And I think that goes a long way to restoring the dignity that the service industry really needs if they're going to show up proudly and provide that hospitality. And so while I'm not a fan of trickle-down economics in any way, shape, or form, I am a little bit of a fan, maybe a lot of fan, of that trickle-down dignity in the restaurant industry where it starts with the culture of the employer. Bobby, you're going to do a bunch of great work of putting people on a foundation of getting started and getting the skills necessary to really succeed in the industry. Potentially, what you'll find is that you'll have to curate carefully a list of employers that you can then put those qualified people into to avoid having them just totally disenfranchised with the remaining toxic workplaces that are still really prevalent in the hospitality industry, unfortunately.
They are. They're very prevalent, and it's discouraging, and there's not a lot you can do to change it because, like you said, it comes from the owners of those organizations. And as long as they're in business, as long as they're making money, they're going to continue doing what they're doing outside of changing a law, which we know how that goes. We'll see how it goes, but I think as long as we can positively impact the people that are going into these programs, they'll choose the right places to work for. And hopefully that culture can change, that can shift how some of these other businesses practice business.
I will be over here working with the business owners themselves, trying to impart good practices from the beginning and sharing with them how important culture is and living your values and treating your staff as you yourself would want to be treated. And a lot of that for all of the business owners that are listening to this podcast, and that is the majority of them, a lot of that is a very intentional curation of culture. What is important to you, identifying your values, and then living those values by creating policies that support people. And that, like, for example, if I was to ever be at an event and the host asked us to stay later, my company policy is that the decision as to whether or not to extend service lied with the staff on site. I don't know their personal lives. I don't know how much flexibility they have. If they wanted to stay, then that was on them. But company policy was that there was no requirement or assumption that they would stay later if that wasn't pre-contracted. And that made them feel valued. Another policy that I had was, and a lot of this obviously comes with this gig type of work, but when I posted a shift, I was very clear about where it was and what type of venue it was. Because if I had people on my staff that didn't want to work a plantation wedding because it didn't align with their values, they did not have to pick up a plantation wedding. And I didn't want to surprise them with that, right? Because maybe they would have no idea. And now I feel really uncomfortable working here. These were all parts of my culture that were very intentional so that people felt supported and safe as much as one can offer safety. That's not really something that we have much control over, but it was an attempt, right? And that comes from policies that we as business owners create. And as a server for many years where there wasn't a whole lot of transparency and tip pooling, transparency is a pretty important value, especially around money, that I think most people underestimate. And so as a business owner, think hard about how you want your staff to be and then create the policies and the culture that will support the way they show up.
Absolutely. And just because we're sitting here creating a foundation to offer scholarships and mentorship doesn't mean that a business owner can't do the same thing. We have a development program in-house that we push our people through, and it's there. If they want to learn it, go for it. If not, then you don't have to, but we just have to provide access and opportunity. And that's what this foundation is about, is providing an opportunity for those who can't provide an opportunity for themselves.
Amazing, Bobby. I'm always inspired and in awe of the work that you do in the world, both from the business side where you're creating jobs and money for the people that work for you, but also, obviously this nonprofit wing that you've just started. Where can people find more information about the Family Foundation?
So we're on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, all the fun socials with the same handle. It's GFF Cares. So Greenawalt Family Foundation Cares. And then that's our website as well, gffcares.com. And if you want to contribute, you can do it there. If you want to learn more about our programs or even apply for certain things, you can go there as well. We post things regularly on our socials. We're even on LinkedIn as well. So feel free to look us up and get in touch. And I'd be happy to have a conversation with any of you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today, Bobby.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And that wraps up today's episode. I hope it was valuable. I would love to hear from you what you thought. You can drop me a line at hello@mobilebevpros.com or find me on Instagram at mobilebevpros. If you're looking for more valuable mobile bar related content, we have a website full of it. You can find us at www.mobilebevpros.com. And I'd love to see you in our Facebook community, also by the name of, you guessed it, Mobile Bev Pros. Thank you for joining me today, and until next time, cheers.